I walked back to my room and I looked up Disney Springs. It did look pretty fun, so after about 30 minutes of waiting, I decided to text Peter on the number on the business card to see if he had left yet.
So I waited around 20 minutes in the room and decided to go to Disney Springs by myself. I got in my rental car and started to drive off as I passed the hotel. My phone buzzed with Winnie's text. Quickly, I crafted a response as I spun the car around to the front of the hotel.
I tried to get a rideshare while simultaneously going down the elevator, and as I exited the front lobby of the hotel, I see a white SUV pull up with a smiling Peter waving at me, so I thought to myself, well, it's too late, and I got in the car.
As she was walking to the car, I suddenly thought, what kind of a woman gets in a stranger's car? Since I wanted someone to hang out with, I snapped out of it, and I was just happy to have her company.
When I got in the car, one of the first things Peter said was, I come from your stereotypical Christian family that likes to eat at Chick-fil-A. I didn't really know what that meant, but it opened the door for me to start talking comfortably about myself.
So we started driving to Disney Springs, and when we got there, we went to dinner at Morimoto's restaurant. When they started sharing about herself, her family, and experiences in moving to Atlanta over the last year, we had dinner for over 2 hours, and the conversation was really easy.
After dinner, I convinced Peter to go to a Uniqlo because I love that store, and we ended up buying matching flannels there.
After Uniqlo, we went browsing in the other shops and enjoying the downtown Disney atmosphere. We spent another couple hours together, and the time just seemed to fly by. When I woke up the next morning, my first thought was, did that just happen? I was enthralled with this girl and really wanted to see her again.
Around 3 p.m. the next day, I get a text from Peter again asking if I wanted to hang out. Since I had ditched my coworkers the night before, I told him that he could join us for dinner if he wanted.
I was going to take any chance to hang out with Winnie again, so I immediately responded yes.
I thought it was nice he was willing to join us just to see me again, and I could tell some of my coworkers were checking his character.
The next day I saw Winnie in the lobby before the opening session. I went up to her, said good morning, and we proceeded to sit next to each other during the session. Later that afternoon, I sent another text mentioning that I wanted to see Winnie again.
I decided to attend a networking event in the evening, and somehow Peter invited himself to attend as well. After about an hour of talking to people, I glanced across the room and could see that Peter was getting restless, so I went over there to see if he wanted to go.
I was so happy when Winnie asked if she wanted to leave. We started searching fun activities in the area and landed on an arcade.
After running through several options that we both felt were too expensive, we settled on $20 worth of arcade games. We got back at 11:30 that night and decided to meet for breakfast on the last morning of the conference. As I was going to bed that night, I was thinking to myself, since he had asked me to hang out 3 nights in a row, I was going to go ahead and let him know that I could see him as more than a friend.
So on Friday morning, Winnie and I had breakfast together. I was really thankful to spend time with her again. After we finished eating, Winnie asked if we could go outside, have a conversation.
So at this point, we have about 5 minutes until the first session starts. So I just try to get out what I want to say quickly, and I say something along the lines of, so I'm not trying to be presumptuous, but I just want to let you know that I can see you as more than a friend. And as you know, I've had a tough year, and I don't want something that's going to make life complicated or confusing, so I don't really expect you to say anything.
I also had some preconceived notions too going into the conversation. The whole week had felt too good to be true, and I didn't think Winnie would actually want to do a long distance relationship. I was listening for specific words, and so when I heard life and complicated, I started to zone out because I thought Winnie was telling me that she wasn't interested in a relationship. After she stopped talking, I said that I'd like to stay in touch. I never clicked with anyone as well on this planet as I had with Winnie, and knowing how special she was, I told myself that if Winnie ever texted me, I'd respond. If she ever showed interest, I'd be ready.
After I heard that, I was really confused, and so I just said, well, have a safe flight, and so we awkwardly turned around and just left. Later that weekend, I flew back to visit my parents. It was bothering me so much that I shared with my mom. My mom said, maybe you talked too fast and he misunderstood you. Just pray about it, and if it's meant to happen, then God will make it happen. She also said, by the way, I've been praying about you meeting somebody at a conference. And to that I responded, what? Why? That's so weird. She said she noticed I started going to conferences more when I started my new job. And then she said, well, I don't know, maybe the Holy Spirit impressed it on me. Anyways, she reaffirmed that I should just pray about it and let things be. Over the next week, I started to get upset thinking, God, why did you introduce me to this person? I didn't even initiate. I didn't ask to meet him. And knowing that I'd just come out of a pretty rough season, I decided I couldn't revert to anger again. And I chose to be thankful after some encouragement from some friends. And so I decided to start praying about it and surrendering the situation to the Lord. And I asked God, if it's meant to happen, then please let it happen. But if not, I want you to remove this person from my life because I did not want to deal with anything that was going to distract me from where God wanted me to be.
On Friday night, I was sad the conference was over and wouldn't get to see Winnie again. After praying about it, I decided the time I spent with Winnie was a gift that God gave me, and I was going to be thankful for it.
I still somehow thought there was a misunderstanding and that I needed to reach out to him to clarify. So I was thinking about a way to contact Peter without being too straightforward. And so I asked for his address to send him a Chick-fil-A Be Our Guest card. I also folded a little origami frog to represent the Japanese restaurant the first day we met.
When I got Winnie's card, I was moved to give her something. So I wrote a cheesy poem about everything we did the first day we met.
Meanwhile, I had started going to a new small group with some friendships that had been forming over the last few months. They knew about my situation early on, and so every week we prayed about making Peter's heart clear and letting God work out what was supposed to work out. Also, my friend Jennifer had invited me to join her in a trip to Chicago, and after explaining the situation to her, she was very supportive to have me try to see Peter while we were there. So I waited about 2 weeks and had not heard back about the card, and I decided to text Peter to see if he had received anything yet.
We were texting and I was having a hard time keeping up with her speed. Thankfully, we switched to a phone call.
During the conversation, I asked if he'd be open to me visiting him sometime as a friend.
I responded without skipping a beat, absolutely yes.
It turned out he wasn't free the weekend I planned to go with Jennifer, so we decided on the last weekend of October.
I figured this was Winnie's way of determining if she liked me more than as a friend. The weekend felt like a trial, but regardless of what happened, I made sure Winnie would not regret visiting Chicago. I sent Winnie about 40 activities to pick from, then we finalized an itinerary in a Google Sheet.
Over the course of the next few weeks, we started texting and chatting on the phone a little more. Still, it wasn't clear to me where he stood because I was always initiating the text or conversations.
I didn't know what was going to happen that weekend. I prayed hard and very deliberately during October. I asked God to make it clear if we should be friends, more than friends, or separate. I knew God would answer our prayer with the best outcome, even if it wasn't my preferred outcome.
On October 26, 2018, 6 weeks after I last saw Peter, he picked me up in his giant Chevy Tahoe that I'd heard so much about. I hopped in the car and he started driving us to Portillo's. We roughly followed the agenda he planned out, doing everything from country dancing to exploring downtown Chicago to making a Scandinavian dessert. I also picked up on a few clues from his friends when I met them that he had been talking about me. Oh, have you been to Pittsburgh?
Yes.
This kind of reminds me of it.
Everything we did was fun, even country dancing and making a music video.
After we finished making a home-cooked dinner and spending 2 full days together, I felt like the time seemed appropriate for me to bring up the elephant in the room. I started by saying, "So, are you glad I came to visit this weekend?"
I said, yeah, I'm really glad you came to visit. I was sad after what you had said at the conference.
And I responded, "What do you think I said at the conference?"
I thought you had said life's been really hard and I don't want to complicate things.
Well, that is what I said, but what I was trying to say is that I've had a tough year and I can see you as more than a friend, but I didn't want to get into a confusing guy friendship. I either wanted to be in an intentional relationship or just walk away and leave it alone.
As she was trying to explain further, my roommate Nathaniel walks in the room and the conversation went on ice. Eventually, I asked Nathaniel, "Hey man, we were kind of in the middle of something. Do you mind giving us a couple minutes?"
I could tell Nathaniel was trying to quickly put away his groceries. He was in his own home, so I felt bad and told him, "Hey, don't worry about it. We can continue the conversation later." On the way to the improv class that Peter planned for us after dinner, I started clarifying the rest of my thoughts. I told him I didn't want to be in a complicated situation if he wasn't interested, but if he was, I was ready to be in a long-distance relationship, like right now.
I told Winnie I was definitely interested in her. I really liked her and was hoping she was interested in me.
I responded, "So, are we doing this?"
I smiled, had a twinkle in my eye, turned to her and said, yeah, I think we're doing this.
Peter mentioned that he did not want to go more than a month without seeing me, so we began scheduling visits with each other.
I visited Winnie in Atlanta in November, then again in December.
Because we knew we wouldn't see each other over Christmas.
We decided that we should meet each other's parents in January.
Back-to-back weekends, Peter came to DFW, and then I flew to Chicago.
The meetings went well and our parents had positive impressions.
In February, we started a pre-engagement book called Ready or Not.
We blazed through the book covering 12 chapters in about 4 weeks.
Midway through, I asked if Peter was going through the book because he wanted to see if we could be together long term, or if he knew and he was just trying to take precautionary steps.
Not wanting my emotions to cloud my conscience, I kept my verbal feelings guarded during the relationship. Not ready to share those feelings, I responded it was more so the first one.
I was a little sad to hear that, but understood that he might need time to process. I told him that just for his comfort, I felt certain I wanted to be with him. After finishing the book, I jokingly asked him, "So, are you ready or not?"
Initially, I was taken aback by the question. I responded that I thought we both needed to be ready.
His response did not make any sense to me, but I just left it at that.
Really, I was just trying to dodge the question. Later, I couldn't get the question out of my head, and it was becoming clear that marriage was right.
When Peter asked what rings I liked, I was surprised because he had just given me a vague answer the previous week. Nonetheless, I know he likes to be a well-prepared Eagle Scout, so I told him styles I was interested in as he took notes.
We were visiting Nashville that weekend, and I suggested ring shopping as one of our activities.
I was surprised and asked, "Are you ready for that?" He said yes, and so I prepared to look that weekend. He also asked me what my ring size was, and I had absolutely no idea, so I said maybe a size 2. Later, my sister said that was my pant size.
I knew I wanted to be ready to propose if it felt right. I wasn't going to do it without a ring, so I just bought one. It shipped from Israel and was delivered to my aunt's house in Nashville to make sure it got there in time. Driving to Nashville, I called everyone, telling them I was feeling more confident that Winnie and I should be married and I was planning to propose. I also spoke with Winnie's family.
As I was driving up to Nashville, my sister began asking me good, intentional questions about Peter. She also asked, "So if Peter proposes tomorrow, would you be ready?" I thought her question was a little odd, but I said, "Yeah, I would be." On Saturday morning, we went to a ring shop, and I was confused because I was still in the mindset that he wasn't ready, and yet we were looking at rings.
In reality, I was ready. On Sunday, my aunt handed me the package with Winnie's ring in it. She did it right in front of Winnie.
I heard Aunt Diane ask if Peter could pass something to his mom for her. I thought nothing of it.
After lunch with my aunt, uncle, and cousins, we went for a walk in the park.
Peter said he wanted to take his mom's package, and I just assumed it's because he didn't want to leave his mom's stuff in the car.
We were walking along the trail, and I'm looking for a spot to propose.
Still feeling confused about the ring shopping and his response about being ready or not, I decided to seek some clarity. "So, I know we went to look at rings yesterday. I was wondering, when is it okay for us to start talking about the wedding?"
I did not want to talk about the wedding because we weren't engaged yet. I was desperately trying to stall with my answer and looking for a place to propose.
At this point, we were next to a bench, and Peter went silent for several seconds. He went over to the bench and picked up a wine glass someone had left on the bench. I thought he was upset someone had left it there at a national park, so I asked him, what are you thinking?"
When I saw the bench, I was thinking to myself, is this it? Is this where it's going to happen? I took a deep breath and went for it.
Peter took the package out of his backpack and started quite intensely ripping it open.
I was in the zone. Nothing was going to stop me from proposing.
I asked him, why are you opening your mom's package?"
I responded, because it's not for my mom, it's for you.
I was confused because it didn't line up with what he'd said last week, and asked him, "What do you mean it's not for your mom?" My brain was racing all over the place trying to fit the puzzle pieces together.
I ignored the question because I was going to answer it momentarily.
After several seconds of confusion and lots of ripped paper all over the place, I see a ring box appear, and I thought, oh, he's proposing.
I had written 6 stanzas of things I wanted to say to Winnie when I proposed. After finishing the first stanza, my mind went completely blank. I was more overwhelmed by the moment than I thought I would be. Eventually, I remembered everything I had written. I just needed a couple seconds each time to gather my thoughts.
My eyes started to water as he shared. For the first time, he said, "I love you," adding, "And will you marry me?" I said yes. He jumped up and hugged me. I immediately started asking several questions, and every from the week's events started making sense.
I never imagined I would meet my wife this way. God is an incredible author, and I'm so thankful that He brought us together, especially when it didn't seem like it would happen.
All the providential irony could not have been written by us. Only God could have crafted such a story. We hope you are able to join us in celebrating all God's done in our lives and all He will do moving forward.